I am Bonneau Ansley, an active real estate agent and founder of Ansley Real Estate, Christie's International, an award-winning Atlanta-based real estate brokerage that did over $3 billion in sales last year.
And I'm Chris Tuff, one of the first advertisers to work directly with Mark Zuckerberg in 2006. I've since gone on to be the best-selling author of The Millennial Whisperer and Save Your Asks.
And this is Brokering Billions. This podcast is about uncovering the hustle, perseverance, mindset, and tricks that are used by the top real estate agents in the country to help you take your business to the next level.
Finally.
Oh, God.
We finally get the interview everyone wanted. You know?
I love it. Well, look, guys, I'm Bonneau Ansley.
And I'm Chris Tuff.
And we're Brokering Billions. But today, I'm not interviewing a real estate agent. I'm not interviewing somebody that's in our industry. I'm interviewing my partner here with Brokering Billions, Chris Tuff. I'm not going to tell you his accolades because we're going to go through them here in this podcast. Because a lot of you guys are like, hey, dude, who's the dude? Who's the guy in the yellow glasses and the yellow shirt and tattoos? And like, what's his deal? I didn't pick a random guy to do this with. I looked at hundreds of resumes to podcast with me. Totally kidding.
Oh
No, Chris and I had this chemistry and we decided to do this thing. And I just need you guys to know about Chris. Chris, talk to me a bit about what got you here.
Sure. So, well, first
Who you
of all,
are, what's your career, all that stuff.
First of all, but no, it took me about 3 months of us hanging out until I really understood you. And I'm like, you know what? I actually told my wife, I was like, I really like this.
You
dude.
don't understand.
Like, I feel like I think I do. And the best part is it's supposed to be fun, right?
Yeah.
The second that, and I'm sure listeners get a little bit of that, but like that to me is one of the most important pieces along with impact. But what got me here, Bonneau, is I fell into the digital and social media space right as 2003, 2004. We were just coming back from the dot-com bust. I had 64 failed job interviews after graduating with a very large ego from Vanderbilt. And then I got kicked in the face, and it was lucky 65th that I fell into a digital advertising agency here in Atlanta I was the 13th employee there, called Moxie. And we grew from 13 employees to 500 in like a matter of 2 years, which is indicative of what was happening with digital and social media. It was actually really, I was the worst copywriter in advertising history. I tried that. I was an account executive. I was pretty bad at that because I'm not detail oriented. And then, it was actually on my 4th year of making all these lateral moves that I started to work really directly with Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg as they were coming out from just colleges. And so some of it worked, some of it did not, but I was able to help them come up with what now has become really the social media advertising and some of the units, et cetera. And so it was really cutting my teeth there and being one of the early guys on the scene that really became my first currency. What I tell audiences, especially like younger people that are kind of coming to me for advice around how to better network and get a job, is that, that place where passion, purpose, and profession, where those things overlap, that's the most beautiful thing in the world. And it's where work doesn't feel like work. It's what I see in you, Beno. It's what I see with a lot of these real estate agents is they love what they do, right? The first time that happened to me was actually the owner of our agency. And I don't know if I've even told you this story, at least face to face, but the owner of our agency said, so Chris, we're going to give you a social media department here at the marketing firm if you can create a viral video. Meanwhile, you got to understand, it's 2006, right? I said, yeah, of course. What's a viral video? The owner of the firm, Chris, said, well, if you get over 1 million views, it's a viral video. And I was like, okay, well, I had been patiently courting my now wife, Julie, who's a huge introvert, and we're both identical twins. I was like, I'm going to film my engagement. So if nothing else, our twins can see me pop the question to her, but I'm also going to try to make this be the viral video. And this is way before people film their engagement. And so I called a guy from MTV's Real World, and I set him up in the back of a car on Valley Road because I knew it was a long straight and that's where we would go for our runs. I had a wireless mic on. I had a camcorder in the tree, and at the 3rd telephone pole on the left side of the street, Tom Bell's house, I pretended to sprain my ankle. And I went from spraining my ankle to then popping the question. And my wife...
Did you do the Turk?
Yeah. So then I proposed to her, and then it was a 3.5 minute of kind of Julie, my wife, making fun of me and calling me clumsy, to then her just being like, wait, what just happened? And so it was a scale of emotion the internet hadn't really seen. I was actually flying down to one of our friends' weddings down in the Breakers, and I got a call from the server guy, and the server guy was like, Mr. Tuff, this is when you had to actually pay for bandwidth. Your video is getting 50,000 views every hour and it's doubling. Like, what do you want me to do with this? Because it's costing a lot of money. I was like, well, just let her rip. And so Good Morning America ended up flying down. We were on the front page of the Wall Street Journal with like the pinprick. And my wife then, who's a professional soccer player, was like, Chris, take that thing down, because people are actually like recognizing me, and I'm getting more credit for this than being a professional soccer player. And so, but I use that as an example, but no, like, when you fall into that place where passion, purpose, and profession overlap, ridiculous things tend to happen. And that was my first taste of that. And I just ran with it over the next really 15 years and helped kind of pioneer the space and educate companies. And what really attracted to me to social media was the ability to connect. And what's interesting is you kind of fast forward to what social media is doing in our world. I think there are a lot of ways that we can use it, especially as agents, to break through, but I'd lost a little bit of that passion. And so I then doubled down on my employees, and I was like, you know what, if I'm not that passionate about the digital and social things, I'm just going to put all my effort into my team and just be a good leader. And it was 7 months into that, I was introducing myself around a fire. I was like, guys, I don't really know. Average age of the leader there was 55 years old. A lot of our mutual friends were in attendance. I didn't know them. I was like, I don't know how to introduce myself because I'm not really the digital and social guy, but I'm kind of like the millennial whisperer. And then I went on and shared my story, and I sat down by the fire, and these guys are like, dude, I can't stand these millennials. Like, I can't get them to show up on time. They're coming in late. I have to give them job promotions every other week. I've got a couple tactics that I use that really work. And I started sharing my tactics, and they're like, holy cow, like, you got to write that book. So I wrote that book. And it was really 8 months after that that my new currency was really born, which was really around this place of how do you establish more genuine connection with your employees. It's called the Millennial Whisperer. It sold over 100,000 copies, got me on the big stage at Nike, blah, 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 right? Then the pandemic hit. What am I going to do now? Right? Like, because that's not going to keep going. What's the one book that I was really meant to write? What's the one thing that even my most sophisticated friends and entrepreneurs go to me for advice? And it was always, how do you network like you do? You end up in these crazy situations, meeting these amazing people. And once again, it's like real connection. Like you end up creating friendships in business with these people. How do you do it? And it was also at that time where I was looking, once again, what am I going to do with all this time? I don't know how long this pandemic's going to last. I recollected 5 years prior, I'd gone back to Vanderbilt to do a senior lecture. The title of that lecture, which was the highest rated guest lecture of the year, was How to Network Like a Mofo. I was like, well, there's the start of the book. I'm pretty good at writing. I know how to write books now, right? So I then spent the next 2.5 years interviewing the world's best networkers. I published that this year. It was actually soon after that we met. And,
Right.
and as I look at kind of, once again, I call it my ball of yarn, and I'd say it's kind of three currencies, right? It's the marketing and the social media side, which is like, that's instinct to me at this point. And then there's the, how do you motivate your workforce, and what is it that younger generations and really all of us are looking for in leadership? And then the networking piece. When we met and you were talking about the application, what you were doing for real estate agents, I was like, dude, I am all in, right? First of all, I had no idea there was 1.5 million real estate agents. But the one thing that really attracted me to this project with you, Beno, was the amount of impact we can have with a fairly limited amount of time that we put out there with the podcast and obviously your book.
Well, I think there's a huge opportunity for you to showcase everything that you've learned in all those different spaces that you've worked, and translate that into real estate.
Mhm.
How do you see that connection for our listeners in the future?
I would say Savior asks, there's no better audience for that book than real estate agents, because it's all about one of the common themes here. Let's go back to the common theme of everyone that I interviewed, which were multi-billionaires, entrepreneurs, pro surfers. And the one theme was this, Beno: creating relationships is easy. It's sustaining them that's hard. So how
It takes a lot of work.
And it takes work, and you've got to be creative about it. And it's interesting because, there's one of two ways to look at networking, right? There's kind of the cold outreach, which happens all day, every day. And you're inundating people with what I would say, you got to save your asks, right? That's the title of the book. And instead, we've got to go in with more creative solutions to then generate that genuine connection that's more longer term, but the payoff is much bigger. And I look at some of the tactics that you do that fall right in line with my playbook of, for example, finding the micro influencers in your market. When you were first starting Ainsley and you're going out and you would sit at the same tables that your clients were having lunch, even if you couldn't afford that lunch at the time, you were rubbing elbows with them. You're getting to know them. And then when you went to the valet parker afterwards, you would actually hand them 100 and say, put my Ainsley book in every single car that is over 80 grand, right? Like those are the things. I'm like, wow, you've been practicing some of this stuff.
You continue to sell yourself too. And as real estate agents, we sell ourselves to get listings, to get buyers, to do 1,000 different things. What tactics do you use to sell yourself that can help real estate agents get out there and get the business?
Well, here's the harsh truth. Listeners probably don't want to hear. Only 5% of you are memorable. And I go back to these conversations that I had with this woman named Lydia Finette. She wrote the foreword of my book. And Lydia, you may know of her, but she's the head auctioneer at Christie's. And she was telling me, as we were kind of going back and forth on these now, multiple conversations, that here she is sharing the stage with Bruce Willis and Bruce Springsteen. Like, what is she going to do that's going to differentiate herself? But what happens at those same auctions, you've all been there. It's that nonprofit kind of rubber chicken dinner. You're around that round table. How many of those people at that table are actually memorable? And it might be great networking, but what Lydia said is it's around 5%. You've got to stand out from the crowd. You got to stand for something. And that's personal branding. That's why.
Is that why you tattooed yourself?
I mean, it's part of it, right? It's turned into it. I mean, and this is my tattoos are my life story, right? And my glasses are bright yellow because I want to give optimism and hope to the world. What better way to represent that than the yellow glasses? And it makes you stand out with the guy in the yellow glasses, right? Or I talk about how instead of giving business cards, I had invested in now a failed sock startup when the cool socks were big. I would give them a pair of awesome socks with my number on it, right? I was a sock guy before I was the glasses and the tattoo guy. We all neglect our personal branding piece. So what is it that you stand for? And what are those stories that you're telling at that round table? How do you actually use that as an opportunity to go a little bit deeper than you ever would before? Because every single person at that table at some point pretty soon is going to list their house or buy a new one, right? And so
standing out from the crowd is great. And one of your superpowers is doing that. And that's helped you, as you said, get this incredible network all over the world of these incredible entrepreneurs and people and personalities and everything else.
Sure. Well, I mean, and then it's like, so you stand out from the crowd, but then it's like, how do you deepen that relationship? Yeah. And my favorite tactic to talk about is, and I've told you this one, but it's a verb called Shawshanking. And Shawshanking was first introduced to me in 2012. I was the buyer of this massive software agreement that I was signing off for my marketing agency that I was a part of. I turned to the guy who I'd met 6 years prior, and I was like, Jason, we met in a closed Facebook group 6-7 years ago, right? Here you are closing the biggest deal of your life with me as the buyer. I'm just the sales guy, and me is interested. How the hell did you do it? And he goes, you really want to know? He goes, yeah. I go, yeah, dude, bring it on. And he goes, well, I Shawshanked you. I Shawshanked your ass. It's like, what the hell is that? He goes, just like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption. If you remember, he wrote a letter a week in order to get the library funded at Shawshank Prison. He didn't hear back once, but 2 years later, he got his first check for $200. But he didn't stop there. He doubled down. He wrote 2 letters a week. And then it was 10 years later that he had the nicest library in the prison system. Chris, every single week I've had a touch point with you. I've saved my asks. He didn't say save my ask, but he did. He didn't go in for an ask at all. And he ended up through each one of those touch points on Instagram message, Facebook message, text, email, just checking in on me. And we deepened the relationship. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a great tactic in how do you deepen these relationships with all those people around you? And then when it's time for them to list their house, guess who's they're going to call? You. Yeah.
Well, that's incredible, Chris. And now, right, fast forward, you're in real estate with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is absolutely incredible. I mean, what got you so excited to jump in with me on this project and other projects, that are out in the future in real estate?
Yes.
Which you've never done before. And you're in the process of getting your real estate license.
So what a lot of people don't know is that I was a partner in a dental consultancy. And that was that was my first attempt at essentially taking what I call my superpowers and seeing how those then can relate to a specific niche. One of the tough things with the dental practices is that a lot of my passion is around the networking and sales piece, right? Because that's what gets me the most fired up. But there's not that much of it in it. So when you came to me and you were talking about this, I mean, I kind of sold you out of the gates. I was like, dude, I think I could have a massive impact with real estate agents. And I had you read the book, and it took about 3 prompts for you to actually read it. And then you read it and you're like, Chris, this is perfect.
I listened to it.
Well, and then I started to get feedback from different people that were reading it. And a lot of real estate agents were hitting me back. And
it's funny because your book was not for real estate agents, but a lot of the things that you wrote in that book is actually for real estate agents. I mean, Talk to me about what that book is about and some of the things that listeners can apply.
It's titled Save Your Asks, which is a call to action that everyone listening, you tend to fall on one side of what I call the ask continuum. The ask continuum is is that a
porn site?
If asks come really easy to you, if it's easy for you to go to someone, for example, and this happens to you, Beno, all the time. Hey, Beno, can I get tickets to the Georgia game this weekend? And then the next week, hey, Beno, can you introduce me to so-and-so, right? Asks would then come really easy to me. That's a sign that I'm an ask hole, right? Yeah. On that other side of the spectrum, you've got the people pleasers out there. And I will admit to listeners, I was an ask hole that then went too far to the recovering ask hole. And then I went too far to the other side of the spectrum to where the ask would pass me by, right? So it would be tough for me to go in for an ask during that opportune moment. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do it, right? And so we all have places that we can move on that ask continuum to then get us to that sweet spot. And that sweet spot is in the middle.
Yeah.
And, one of my, once again, other favorite tactics for those that do let the ask pass them by is a tactic that I practice as I interviewed kind of what I would call the world's untouchables. These people that they don't even do interviews, similar to the people we've been interviewing for this podcast, right? And I would tell them, I'm going to practice my favorite tactic. Are you ready for it? And the person on the other side would be like, yeah, bring it on. I'd say, okay, it's called masking your ask in your dream. The truth is that when you tell someone what your dream is, they will do anything in your power 99% of the time to open up their network or help you take action on that dream, right? And so in this case, I told them and I warned them and I said, all right, it is my dream to create a handbook to help people become better networkers and sellers in whatever it is that they're doing, but also to make it a hell of a lot fulfilling along the way. Who in your network do I need to interview? And immediately they say, you've got to interview so-and-so, right? And there's always like ridiculous, famous, like,
and they'll make a good warm introduction.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And we forget that, right? And you look at what real estate agents are providing, right? All of our greatest dreams happen inside of our houses, right? Like it's where we're raising our kids. It's where our most impactful memories are made. And so as you look at that application and the role that houses play in our life, it's such a direct application to being able to implement these things in a genuine way.
There's no question.
And it's never, no matter what the market is doing, we're all going to have to, we all want to upgrade to that next thing. We all want to buy that house, that we dreamt about, right? What excites me most about this project, Beno, is the amount of real estate agent lives that we can impact with what I would say is a pretty short period of listening or reading.
Yeah, I agree with you. But look, prospecting is a huge part of our business, the real estate business. And what are some of your favorite tactics to help people in that area?
Well, one of the things that has always kind of stood out to me is what got you into real estate in the first place, and what makes me so inclined to real estate, which is my extroverted nature, right? I love people and I love getting to know them and what drives their story. Right.
How are they buying this house?
Totally.
What got them from here to here?
Totally.
Yeah.
My favorite quote from the book is that curiosity is the difference between connecting and networking, right? Networking is very much a reciprocity, right? In that it looks like, all right, but no, I'm going to give you tickets to this or introduce you to this, and then you can do something in return for me, right? Or here's my card, now give me your card. Like it's very tit for tat, right?
Right.
Whereas curiosity, when you get to know what drives that buyer, right? That drives that human first, that will be that buyer or listing individual, right? When you get to know them as individuals, when you establish a genuine connection with them, it's after that everything starts falling into place. And so one of the things and tactics that I talk about is what I call a race to the middle, or finding that common passion point. And I will tell audiences as I do keynotes in this that on Sunday nights, I will even watch SportsCenter. I'm not a huge sports fan, or I'll watch like the highlights of the different college games, so that when I'm trying to strike up that conversation with the person sitting next to me in the plane or at the bar or wherever it is, I have more in my arsenal. Yeah. If they don't have kids, they don't kiteboard, they're not into some of the things that I'm into. I'm like, man, Georgia really, I thought they were going to win that game, but they weren't going to win it. And then they pulled through in the end. Yeah, man. And then they light up. And then you take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's in that moment. But so many agents, what I've found, are still in that transactional mindset. I believe that by applying some of these tactics, by saving our asks, we can be 20 times more effective and also make it more fulfilling along the way.
You've mentioned that word asks and ask holes quite a bit during this interview. What can agents do to avoid becoming an asshole, right? And am I an asshole? Like, how do you know whether or not you're an asshole or not?
So the best way to find out whether or not you're an asshole is to go to your friends and network and just use the ones that will give you an honest answer and check yourself. Hey, do I go in for a lot of asks? I think you'll be surprised at how many of them will tell you, yes, you do. But it truly is a sensitivity meter, right? As soon as you're attuned to each ask being something,
that's a thing,
that's a thing, you're going to be like, oh, wow, I got to catch myself on this. And the truth is this, you get one ask out of anyone in your network. You get one.
In a lifetime or
in a period, like let's just say on a yearly basis,
right?
I
got you. Yeah.
You get one ask. And I will do 30 gives before I ever go in for that ask. I call it my bank of asks, right? And it's then that I will actually go in and redeem it. But what many listeners will find is that they may find themselves on, they'll find themselves on that ask hole side of the continuum, because that's the way everyone has been trained to be. And what I'm offering up and what I'm hoping will come across in this podcast is new ways to go about saving your asks. And then when it comes time for it, you go in for it, right? But doing it in an authentic and genuine way. Some of my friends will describe me as one of the world's best salespeople, like you, Beno. Even when I go in for the ask, it doesn't even seem like it.
Yeah,
right?
That's beautiful.
And
that's when it's just a beautiful thing.
Right, exactly. I mean, and I've seen you practice this exact tactic because you're offering your currency and value to what these buyers and sellers are looking for that almost no one else can do. And you're so passionate about it, that comes through. Like, so when it comes time for someone to be in that moment of listing or selling their house or buying a house, it's of course I'm going to call Beno, right? Yeah. Like he's the guy, right?
Well, I kind of use a velvet hammer, right? Just keep hammering and hammering, but it doesn't feel like you're getting struck in the head.
Yeah, but no, you got a reputation just because you are such a big personality and you do so much business. And one thing that has been so amazing to me is to see just how much you give. Your general network and the way you approach business, you are much more of a giver than you are that asshole side, right? You practice a lot of these things already. You know, once again, like all of these pieces, that's to me what is so compelling, because I'm able to take all of these things that I've been working on and becoming an expert on and apply it to a vertical that a lot of you all got into this space because of the flexibility that it affords you, right? Like, and you're able to have a work-life balance, hopefully, and be there for your kids' games. And like, you are the ones that I would call out as that aspirational thing that so many people are looking for. You're your own bosses. And so how can I, with what I know, equip you with some of these pieces that can have a massive impact on your business and life?
Speaking of, we've done 20 or so episodes on brokering billions. So you've learned a lot from everybody that you've heard a lot from everybody that we've interviewed. I mean, what's one tactic that every listener out there right now can do today, tomorrow, to drum up more business?
Okay, I've got it. And it might sound awkward, it might sound cheesy. In my keynote, what I'll do is my call to action is, with 13 minutes left, I've timed it obviously and rehearsed this a lot. With 13 minutes left, I will say, everyone get out your cell phone. And what I want you to do right now is I want you to text the first person that comes to mind of someone you haven't had a touch point with in the last 3 to 6 months. It can't be a friend and it can't be a family, but just the first person that pops to mind. And what I want you to do right now in the audience is text that person. Hey, dude, whoever it is, I was just thinking about you. I hope you're having a killer day or whatever. Put it in your own words, right? And that's it. And send it. And what's interesting, Beno, is at the end of my speech, I will say, all right, raise a hand. How many people have heard back from that person that you texted? And it's always 25 to 30% of the audience.
Oh.
And I will say in that there will be millions of dollars of business created out of that one text, because for the first time ever, you've gone in with an outreach without expecting anything in return.
I think everybody should do that now that's listening. If you're in your car, if you're on your computer, if you're in your office, get out your phone right now and
text one person.
Text one person.
Check in on them.
And then check back in 10 minutes. And I bet that has created massive amounts of listeners.
So you want to take it to the next level. And this is where it gets a little awkward for people. And I do this all day, every day. I send video text messages. You don't need, I'm sure people have looked into software like BombBomb, and you don't need any of that. Just get out your phone and send a video text message as you are courting some of these relationships. Start sending video text messages.
I like it.
And here's what's surprising, Beno.
Very personal. I love it.
It is personal, but then there's no misinterpreting the text, right? And voice memos are fine, but like when you see someone's face, and a lot of you all are just as outgoing as Beno and I, like let that shine through. But what's funny is that, and I've done this like most conservative, like C-suite Fortune 50 executives, the first thing that happens is they send a video back. Ooh. And then you just go back and forth. That's back awesome. And forth. And you're able to deepen that relationship in a more genuine fashion that you wouldn't necessarily ever have done, right? Yeah, you never would have even reached out to them.
Guys,
so these are some of the things.
These are some of the things. How fun is this? I'm having so much fun doing this with you, and we're going to continue to do it and continue to bring incredible content to our listeners. Guys, thanks so much for listening to my partner in crime here, Chris Tuff. And we're out. That's it. It's over.
Boom.
I'm Beno Ansley.
And I'm Chris Tuff.
We're brokering billions.